I was a small child in this encounter. And so a lot of the encounters, you're going to be like a small child. And so in this, I was small, and Daddy God has the ability to come to you, in a form where you can have a relationship with him. And I ran up to him and I jumped up in his arms and hugged him and kissed him and told him that I had missed him. And he laughed and he hugged me with both of his arms. He hugged both of his arms around me.
My goodness.
And yeah, and we walked for a little while, and then we sat down and we began to play in a mud puddle.
Wow.
And so Daddy God and I, we were sitting and we were playing in this mud puddle. And Daddy God, I call him Daddy God because he's really nice. Right.
Yeah.
And so he took his hands in this mud and he forms like this little 4-inch mud mountain. And he took a little mountain. And you know how you form little things out of the mud.
Yeah.
And it was like a little mud mountain. And I was watching him and I was doing the same thing. And I had my little mud mountain. And he took his fingers and he did this over his mud mountain, and it began to snow.
Oh my!
And I was like, that's really cool. So I took my hands and I did that, and nothing happened. I'm like, oh, because I wanted snow to come out of my fingers too. And what he did is Daddy God, he held out his hand and pulled my hand, and he took my hand. He took his hand and he put my hand inside of his hand. Really? And it went into his hand. And then he took his other hand and he put his hand inside of my hand. So my hand was in his hand and his hand was in my hand. I could see like we were transparent. I could see his hand, but I could see my hand. And it reminded me of Psalms 143:9. Rescue me from my enemies, Lord. I hide myself in you. I was in him.
Wow.
I was in him.
I mean, that's what you're saying. That's what that literally means. It means that.
In him.
Wow.
So you're in him. And then John 10:30, it says, I and my Father are one. And then so after that encounter, that scripture just came alive because I am in him and he was in me. And we were one. And then as we're sitting there with our hands inside of each other, Jesus walks up to us and he sits down at the mud puddle with us and he smiles really big because he sees what we're doing.
Yeah.
And God has his hand, my hand, and Jesus smiles because he sees what's going on. And Jesus reaches over and he puts his hand inside. And so now I have Jesus's hand, I have my hand, and I have the Father's hand. All three of us are one. We're transparent, but we're one. I can feel, and I'm just like, that is amazing. And Daddy God is sitting behind me. And I lean back. And what happens is I lean into him. Just like our hands, now I am in him. I can see me in him. And then Jesus walks over and steps into us. And so I still feel me, but I can I see the Father and I see Jesus. The three of us are one, but we're separate. We're individuals. And so for some reason, as a little child, I wanted to go over to the swings. And so when I stood up, the three of us stood up.
Wow.
Daddy God stood up. Jesus stood up, and we walked over to the swings. And I sit on the swings. And as I'm walking, I'm like, they're in me. I'm in them. I can feel the difference. And so I'm sitting on the swing because the swings in heaven are incredible. You got to experience the swings in heaven. But I'm holding on to like the rope things, and I can see our hands. I can see God. I can see Jesus, but I can see me. And we are swinging. The three of us are going up in the air and we're coming back, and I'm swinging with God and I'm swinging with Jesus. And then I get off and I go back over to the mud puddle and I sit down and I look, and now I have God's hands, Jesus' hands, and my hands. We're all one. And I reach over to my little mud mountain that did nothing earlier. And now snow comes out of my fingers. And not only that,
Really?
because we're together. And then all of a sudden,
Just
my little
okay. Just while you're inside, this is working.
together,
Yeah.
yes. But by myself, it wouldn't work. And so my little mud mountain, all of a sudden, water comes shooting up out of the fountain. And Daddy God says, when you're praying by yourself and it's just you, it's really hard, right? I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
when you're praying in the flesh, and like, I got to do my
Mhm.
10 minutes, and you pray your 10 minutes and it feels like an hour. You know how that is.
Yeah.
But he says, when you're praying and you're with me and you're in me and we're together, we're praying together, if it feels different. And he says, whenever you reach your hand out to pray for people, if it's just you, you know, you're going out to pray for people, you know, to check the box, it's really hard. But when you're in him, when you're doing it with him, partnership with him, with Jesus, then you're doing it together as the three of you together. And so Jesus reminded me of that scripture of John 9, of the blind man. So
Oh
in
yeah.
John 9, it says, and when he said this, Jesus, he spit on the ground and made mud with his saliva and spread mud on the man's eyes. When I read that after this encounter, I had to kind of laugh,
Yeah.
because when Jesus was in this, you know, he's still, remember, he's a man. He
Yeah.
takes the dirt. He's a man. And as a man, he can't do anything with the dirt. But did he remember playing in the mud puddle with
Oh,
Daddy God?
interesting. Oh my.
And with Daddy God, playing in the mud with Daddy God in his hand, he could take that dirt and turn it into mud and put it on the man's eyes. And with Daddy God in his hands, working together with him, that the blind eyes got open. So it was just kind of, I saw that and I thought, isn't that something? Isn't that fun? So
Yeah.
that was one of my encounters. That was kind of my something that I love this week, because, you know, when you're out ministering, it's, you know, it's hard to do anything by yourself. But if
Well,
you remind yourself you're in him and he's in you, then it makes everything easy.